Welcome, everybody, to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. If you haven't seen a hot take before from us, well, it's where a few friends get in a basement and we give our thoughts, we give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a TV show, and that TV show is Loki Season 2 and the final season of Loki. Here to discuss, as always, the triple trickster himself, Chris Drio.
Gooch, I am ready with glorious purpose to discuss what was a pretty great season of television. I'm excited to get
And
to
how
here.
surprising it was, because, I mean, let's get right into it. I was so trepidatious and cautious to even start Loki. I finished it within a week, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty fresh off the whole thing.
I watched like 4 episodes last week and then watched the finale this week. So yeah, I kind of consumed it at a similar pace.
Yeah, but wow. Great season. Not every episode is jaw-dropping amazing.
Of course.
I think like 4 and the final episode were my high points, but I think 1 and 2 were fine. 3 was better. 5 was not great for me. But I think when thinking about Loki Season 2 in the context of other Marvel shows, it finishes so strong. And I don't know if you remember, but, you know, going back to Loki Season 1, I was pissed that it was even happening.
Yeah.
Because I thought, hey, like, you know, Loki had such a meaningful death in Endgame or Infinity War, and to take it all back and just, you know, do a different version of him with a new show, it just felt cheap.
I agree.
But I feel like they really brought that around, and for once, Marvel really proved me wrong about the quality of story they were trying to tell here and what they were doing with the character. But, you know, are you as high as me? What are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% there. I mean, I can only echo what you felt about the first season, where I was like, okay, what's this?
Mm-hmm.
But they severely proved me wrong, from just a set design standpoint to a world building standpoint to just an interesting story. And I think this brings that all back around. I do think this is on a different echelon of things for Marvel, especially at this point in their life cycle. And you can tell the care and attention to detail went into the show and just into Loki himself. Like, I don't know, I shared that video of Tom Hiddleston talking on Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
I don't know. It really kind of makes me like feel all warm and fuzzy inside with like how he discusses this character, with like how much reverence he has for it and how much he's really kind of enjoying being Loki. And it made him take off.
Career.
Yeah, it absolutely did. It was his
sure.
first major role. But I don't know. It just feels nice to see someone genuinely that like excited and into what they've done, especially in this universe. And I think Tom Hiddleston, I don't know how well this character would work without him. So, and I think he's a bit of a dark horse when it comes to this. I know everyone loves Loki, but like, I don't know. I feel like this ending really kind of sunk it in for me, where I'm like, oh, I really do thoroughly love this character. And they bring it home full circle for sure. Like, the ending shot of this is so good, and we'll get into it. But yeah, from just being back in this universe, the TVA itself, I think, is incredibly designed and like just interesting to look at. And it feels like we're back on sets. It doesn't feel like we're in the volume this whole time.
Absolutely.
In this season, especially being in that main room with like the time, whatever it's called, the thing that sews all the time streams together.
The loom.
The loom. Thank you.
Time loom.
It just all feels real in there, and it felt like time and care and thought went into it, and that's what really excites me. But yeah, I'm with you, Gooch. I think this is one of the best things to come out in a while, and it feels like there was a focus and an end goal. Whereas with a lot of stuff, and we'll talk about Marvels later, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Like, it did feel like they focused, I say this all the time, but they focused on Loki. They weren't, like, don't get me wrong, this ties into the grander Marvel effect.
Yeah,
but like,
absolutely.
But its main focus is on
focused.
Loki. That's completely and totally secondary, in my opinion. You get such a satisfying ending here to the character that I can't sing its praises enough.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the weird thing. It's like, how does Loki do so well, and like everything, like not everything else, but like other projects do so poorly,
Especially in recent times.
Do you know if there were reshoots for this?
I don't believe. I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say that.
Reshoots, it's funny, have just been a sign of Marvel projects being bad. Everything that has been reshot that we know about ended up being a pretty poor show.
Very sure. Very true.
And I guess movie, you could say too.
I think there's two sides to that coin. Reshoots happen for almost every single project in Hollywood. It's very normal. At least a month or two of reshoots. You fill in some coverage.
But I guess let me counter
more.
and say the reshoots for these shows are like not just reshoots.
That's
they
what I
seem
was
to
gonna
be
say.
doing the whole fucking thing again.
That's the other side of the coin where it's like if you're shooting for 6 more months, that's not good.
Right.
That's if you're shooting an extra month or 2, completely reasonable and happens all the time.
And that's the news we just got with Brave New World.
Yeah, they're
Captain America
reshooting,
movie.
like-
I'm like, this is DOA.
And well, in the way, yeah, for sure. I mean, the way
There's
it's definitely going to happen.
No way it's going to be good.
I never will say that ever with something. I think anything can be good until it's not. But the sign that it's that you are reshooting that much is never a good one, and that you're taking out 3 things. It's going to be damn hard. You know, it's an example of that actually worked and people actually really like a lot. World War Z. That movie was a hellhole that was reshot like 2 times over, I think. Turned out pretty well. But like their track record here is not giving me, especially in this last recent memory, because listen, I do think there's a bit of revisionist history going on with some of the earlier Marvel stuff, especially these shows coming out after Endgame. I get that it's not as integral and as interconnected, which I'm usually fine with. But like WandaVision, Loki season 1, Moon Knight, I think a lot of that stuff gets a lot of praise. And it feels like they've just lost everything in the shuffle. Kevin Feige doesn't really seem to have a full hand in everything. That whole article in Variety is very interesting. But I don't know. To bring it back to Loki, I think you just can't really do much better than or have a more perfect example of how these things should be done from now on. And just to focus in. And it's how many episodes?
6
Thank
for both seasons.
fucking God. Because guess what? It does feel like a long movie. But like when you start getting into 8
And that
to
is
12,
kind of an issue with Marvel shows, that they don't feel like shows. They feel like movies cut up.
I think that can work, but like it's a tightrope you got to walk.
Like Hawkeye, yeah, the show's called Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Hawkeye felt like a cut up movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was not shot like a show.
Even like we can talk about that with Star Wars. Like Obi-Wan felt like that should have been a movie.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there are plenty of things where, and I think a lot of that did come from the pandemic, and we read about it in that article where Disney was like, "Ooh, Endgame and Infinity War, these made $1 billion each. If we make 6 of them a year, we'll get $6 billion, right?" No, that's not how that works. You actually have to put in the time and effort to do these things in a way that gets people excited.
And now they're shooting shows like shows now.
Well,
Or
and
they're-
yeah,
they're-
which
they're-
excites me a little less,
Which is
actually.
weird. It's like, wait, so you weren't shooting a show like a show? Like you were.
They were shooting it like a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
they
And that was, I think Dan Murrell and Screen Crush were talking about that. It's like, well, that was part of the problem.
100%.
Clearly.
Well, and there was a whole thing. I think people were linking the idea of Marvel did announce this whole shakeup with a lot of their shows after the writer's strike and everything, which, put in a lot more protections in place and compensation plans for the more writers you have on and stuff. And they do seem to have less coming on now for certain shows. So, that could be some creative accounting.
Let's get back to Loki.
Yeah.
We're having a good talk.
It's
definitely important.
It's easy to.
But what did you
up.
think of our supporting cast for Loki? I know. What's her name? What's the guard's name?
Renslayer? Oh,
No,
not
the-
Renslayer.
yeah.
I forget her. She's like B23 or something like that. Do
Yeah.
you mean her like real life name?
No. Yeah. I just don't know her character's name.
Hunter B15.
B15. She's B15.
Yeah.
The guy is okay.
Yeah.
So B15 like got more of a spotlight. Obviously, we have Mobius, Renslayer, Miss Minutes, who I think is kind of like a really, just like. I was just kind of surprised by Miss Minutes, I guess. Then Victor Timely, but go for it.
No, I
And of
think
course,
everyone
Obi.
was great. And I do love how it kind of wraps. Like, we picked up right after season 1, which I liked.
Yeah.
But I think Timely was interesting just because they really play with this idea of time travel and, like, what inspires which with him and Obi and stuff like that. I really kind of like that interplay. I don't know how I felt about his, like, his kind of stutter and accent. I feel like not even because... I don't mean to.
No, I mean,
people with
it's
stutters.
funny.
It's just more like
funny. Little spoilers. He who remains like makes fun of
it
too.
yeah.
Like he's like, how did you, what did you think of Timely?
Yeah,
yeah.
Think of Timely. Yeah, he's an interesting character because he's not the he who remains. He doesn't seem to be a really shitty Kang yet, and he's there as like a bit of a plot device, but to show you that all of these Victor Timely's are out there, and I kind of like where they go with how they deal with him.
What do you mean all these Victor Timely's?
I guess he is the beginning of the He Who Remains that will like that are there's variants of him going out everywhere, but this is the one that seems to start the TVA every time, because that's the cycle that he sets himself on that we find out.
I don't think Victor Timely is He Who Remains.
What,
Is that your assumption?
Well, I think he's the one who begins. Yeah, like because he's even named by OB. He's like, I learned all this stuff from Victor Timely, and he's like, I'm Victor Timely. I learned all this stuff from OB. I'm OB. That was another thing I kind of like the idea of. Well, they really play with the chicken or the egg.
I understand that, but I don't think Victor Timely is not He Who Remains.
Okay. Like you don't think he would be? The idea was he would go. Okay.
No.
What happens to him then? I guess like
He Who Remains or Victor Timely.
Like does another Kang come out and become the He Who Remains?
I think the multiversal war happens and the Kang who comes out on top is He Who Remains. We just don't know who that Kang is.
I see.
And Victor Timely is a variant of Kang that's created once He Who Remains is killed.
See, yeah, I took it as he is who inspires He Who Remains, because he is the Kang he inspires to become He Who Remains by having Renslayer plant all that information for him to find out. He learns all this stuff from Obi, who then I guess learned it from Timely, who learned it from Obi, and this cycle has been kind of going.
Yeah, I can understand like the logic,
sure,
to get like the progression of like okay, like like to get to the loom, but I think Victor Timely is there more for Loki than he is for the creation of the TVA or anything like that. I think Victor Timely is like, like a piece of the puzzle that He Who Remains puts into the puzzle pieces so the puzzle can be complete.
I see. That will eventually lead to that multiversal war that will have the correct He Who Remains.
But then that leads to, what happens with Loki in the end.
Exactly.
Because that has to happen, right?
Yeah.
You can assume that, I wouldn't say Loki kind of sets himself up to do that, but, that's kind of the sacred timeline that things are the way things are supposed to go.
I see.
But Ki Hui
Kwan.
It's tough. Ki Kwan.
Yeah.
He was great.
He was.
Obviously we're not going to see him again. I mean, Loki's done. But it was great to just, I think his charm as an actor and as a person really shined through with Obi.
Absolutely.
I was just like I wasn't sure what to think about that. I was kind of like, oh, okay, like interesting, but I didn't really think anything of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of Obi's scenes, I loved him talking. He's like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. And I do love.
Yeah, that does make sense.
I guess so, right? Yeah. And then even when he's kind of having that,
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Time slipping?
I haven't heard of that since that other guy who came back in here the other time. And listen, time travel can be a finicky beast whenever you're dealing with it in a show or TV or movie. But I think this handles it surprisingly well in a way that's very relatively comprehensible.
It is really timey-wimey, but
it is.
I think you're right.
I think, again, you can get lost in the sauce, but it manages not to, and I'm very happy to see that. I really love fucking Morbius. I know it's just kind of a Mobius, I'm sorry.
No, you don't love Morbius.
I don't. I apparently don't love Morbius, or Mobius, but he's a really fucking just enjoyable character, and I think his back and forth with Loki just works very well. I don't know. Even that moment, people were dunking on the scene, but I thought it was good. And with the pie, and when they're kind of going back and forth and stuff.
I love the pie.
Not the. I think it.
Wow.
Wow, the pie is so great. Wow. I don't know. I think their just chemistry works together very well. And I'm sorry, I love that he just has the name Mobius because it sounds cool. And again, it's this chicken before the egg thing. They're like, well, who created the TVA rules then if they both came off or are learning from each other? We don't know. Because guess what? That's just how it's working. And I appreciated that they kind of played with these time travel elements in a way that's very fun. Sylvie,
Yeah, Sure.
I don't know.
She's there as a Loki motivation device, almost more than her own character. I mean, I get it. I get why she's in the show and I get why she's there. I really like in episode 4 when, they're kind of talking about, just kind of destroying all these timelines and killing people. And I like how B-15 is really kind of hitting home to the audience that we've been just murdering people, maybe very indirectly so, and that's maybe why we haven't like thought about the morality of what we're doing here, but we are just like timelines are being created and we're just destroying them and destroying lives.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the morality they come into, and they have like there's like a like a coup situation between Dox and the other Brad, and even Renslayer and stuff, and like that was cool to kind of see like the like a civil war in the TVA. But yeah, like the moments where so that they're talking about destroying the timelines, and Sylvie's like, why don't we just fucking like destroy them, like
well, and so the whole time during the season we're led to believe that the loom needs to be expanded in order to handle all these timelines too. But what we end up finding out, and what Loki, I really enjoyed his journey of going through of like, fuck, maybe He Who Remains was right. Because, like, we can't do this. He spends apparently tens of years learning physics off of Obi as he's time slipping, so that way they can create this loom expansion thing quicker. And he finally does it. He gets there. And he still fails. Because guess what? There will always be too many timelines for the loom to handle. And I think it's
not a scaling problem. It's like an infinite problem, and you can't scale for infinity.
And I thought it was very interesting. Yeah. But then it turns out that it was the fact that is what's purging the timelines itself. So Loki then has to make this whole decision, which again, watching Tom Hiddleston go on that journey, I felt like was very satisfying.
And back to the point I was saying, like, they're talking about like destroying the TVA. Sylvie just kind of wants to live her life and work at McDonald's and
good for her, I guess.
Not have anything to do with the shitty organization. And Loki's like, like destroying is easy, raising is easy, like just kind of like, deciding to be on the attack is easy. It's hope that's hard. And like that line, I was like, I've been seeing a lot like on TikTok and like Instagram Reels recently, but like when I heard it, I was like, wow. And that was the moment that I was like, Loki's clearly one of the best MCU characters.
It really is.
Not even a villain, a character, because he's really not a villain. I mean, I know he's a villain in Avengers and
it's the villain redemption.
And the Thor movies, like he's a light villain.
I mean, he's the straight up villain of the Avengers.
Yeah, but like there's more to his character.
Of course, well, but that's any good villain, and I think you can give that redemption arc itself. Then is something in and of itself that's worth watching, and what makes the character an even better hero at the end of it. Like you're saying,
but like instilling the idea that like hope is hard, but in the end it is worth it.
Bears out, and he really talks about like his like he brings up a few times. He's like, we're gods. Like we have to. Make this decision.
Every time he says that, I do also forget that he is a god.
Yeah.
Like I need to be reminded by him that he is an Asgardian, mythological figure. Or I guess they both are.
Because and even like Sylvie's like, why should this be left up to us? He's like, we're gods. Who else is gonna do it? Like it's not like he says something like that, and I'm like, I don't know. I really felt like his whole growth throughout this, it could have been very haphazard and shoddy, and they do kind of show you a reel of his life at the beginning of the first season to catch that character up to where the old character was, but it just somehow works. And I think that comes through in the writing and the idea of getting to a place, because the same showrunner isn't on the second season, which kind of scared me a little bit. And I think maybe the same writer, but it does feel like they really got some, if not keys, some good overviews from maybe that first season or where they were thinking it would head to really kind of close that chapter. And you said it before, this is the last season. I fucking love it.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get one more.
I would have assumed two.
I didn't assume two was going to be the last season, but I'm like, good. End it before we want it to end or where I think it should end. Like, that's how you end a show.
And on a high note, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I didn't really like Ravonna Renslayer that much at all in the season. I just like wasn't about her character. Like, she kind of goes
the plot a little.
Yeah. She just goes after Timely, and she's kind of like thrown in between, the groups and him.
And you find out that she was there at the beginning of time with Timely before too, because again, that's what let me. I do
not
think that,
Timely. He Who Remains.
I think I'm gonna.
He Who Remains. I don't think they're the same person.
All right,
man.
fair enough. I will refer to them as the same. You will not. That's okay.
I mean, I really don't think they're the same person.
I just don't get other
because he talks about him as he is a different person. The He Who Remains does not refer to him as himself.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see him being like, because he's meeting, I don't know, he's speaking of himself in the third person. He's like, how'd you like Victor to time? The idea is, I think he's he's been alive for so long that he has kind of turned into a new person. But like, I don't know. I just don't get. I do buy the idea though that wait.
I'll prove you wrong.
Okay.
He explains who he is in the first season when he tells you that he was the one. He's like the first Kang.
Well,
he's
says,
like who we think is Nathaniel Richards. He says that.
He said he was the first one. I don't remember that.
He doesn't say he's the first one.
I thought he was just the one that decided to take everyone down. Like he was like, I am.
Well, he's the one who kind of opens up the floodgates for the multiversal war between the Kangs. So he's a scientist from the future. He says that clear as day. He's a scientist from the far, far future. He creates Miss Minutes.
I do remember that.
So Victor Timely doesn't do that.
But she says you created me.
Because
Miss
Kang...
Minutes. But
right, because he's Kang.
I don't think they've done a good job explaining it. Because you're winning me over. But again, I feel like the way that they said it...
he explains like, hey, like through technology and science, I found out that like there are like a lot of different versions than me, and then we had a war, and the war wiped us all out, and I'm the one who remains. And I created the TVA so that that doesn't happen again.
Why choose time? Okay, interesting. I agree. No, you're
why
you're making sense to me.
Because he plants him with the information that he.
But why wouldn't you plant Okay, all right.
Because think about it, Victor Timely is like an anomaly because the only reason he knows how to do what he does is because he has a book from the future that He Who Remains writes.
But then, like that becomes that other idea of like what came first, then the chicken or the egg? Because like how long? So he did this once at first. But then he who remained
did what once?
Took all the other people out and created a sacred timeline. Yes. And then this is the first time he was taken down, but he set himself up with a backup plan that Victor Timely instigates.
Correct.
Or has this happened before?
No, I would assume not.
Okay. I digress. This is where the time travel stuff does get a little wonky, yeah. But I do think the show in the moment didn't make me feel confused, so I think that is a good thing unto itself. I'd be curious to look up more explainers on this and look back at his exact like words in the first season. But
yeah, you brought up Miss Minutes, and I really enjoyed how sinister she was.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect that from her, and I was really just kind of like, and it looks like, that He Who Remains kind of programmed Miss Minutes as like a pretty simple AI, and then she got more evolved to the point where she has emotions and feelings, and she's
sentient. Yeah.
She's in love with He Who Remains, or Kang, and I guess that's why she feels the same way about Timely. Yeah, and she wants a body. She wants to be real. And we never really see that come to fruition, but it makes sense about why Miss Minutes is kind of manipulating Renslayer and the TVA into doing He Who Remains' bidding, and also her own end, because she does clearly have one.
Well, no,
but it is in line with.
Well, that was the thing. I felt like her end is his end, but then when he says "fuck off," that's when she starts to be like, "Actually, fuck you.
Right.
I'm going to tell Renslayer, and we're actually going to take over here."
Right.
Yeah, I think she's an interesting character. I think the idea of him having his backup plan, he's like, "All right, I'll let her kill." Like he's talking to Loki, and then he's like, "You thought this was it? Like, this is all, I was just going to let you kill me?" Like, no, I had this idea. Like, I had a plan. Because I think the idea is he was banking on Loki going through all this, even getting to the point where he has Timely send out the thing that expands the loom. It doesn't work. As we said before, it's not a growth problem. It's
scaling.
Scaling problem. Thank you. It's just you can't scale for infinite. And he was kind of hoping that Loki would go through this process of like, oh, we need He Who Remains, and I will kill Sylvie. And because that seems to be the only way. It goes through this whole thing of Loki trying to stop Sylvie and going back, and he learns how to control his time slipping, and the only way he's going to do it is to kill Sylvie, and he kind of just has this walkthrough of time. I really like that conversation with Mobius, where he goes back to like the first time he meets him when the TVA is still in full swing, and he's like, how did you do it? How do you make the hard choices? Like, and it's just a great little character payoff moment.
Is that the one where he's talking about himself with the story when he goes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, I love that too.
It was a great scene.
Was that 5 or no?
That was the last episode.
Yeah, it was the last episode. A lot happens in that last episode.
It really does.
Trying to think about anything else.
I mean, before the end,
before we get to that end episode. Yeah. Episode 5 was just kind of boring.
It does. It kind of set up.
It was like, I'm like, okay, you really needed this to set up like the good stuff.
Yeah.
I thought I'm like episode 5. I was like,
it was the most setup of them.
yeah,
for sure.
I just found I'm like, I don't, now he like, everyone has amnesia or not amnesia, but like they're in their own branches, and he has to like, get them all together. And I was just like, like, all right, let's go.
And then he has that moment of like stress that makes him be able to. It's a bit, that classic
and I'm
thing.
glad. I was really not looking forward to. I hate in movies and shows when they do the, like the no one remembers them or like they're I was like I'm kind of like, oh man, now do we have to reestablish all this ground that we just got in the first season? And then they kind of like explained it pretty well of like, oh, it's not a different timeline,
it's a different time. He
went
earlier
forward in time.
Well, and then
he went back in time, and the only thing he changed was Kang's appearance on some of the statues.
Well, no, he didn't even. At that time he went back. At the beginning, I didn't think he changed anything. I thought the idea was he just went because after a while, Kang makes himself like enigmatic and makes Renslayer. We find that out through like the Miss Minutes flashback of like he's like send her back, wipe her memory, and just make her believe the alien thing. So I think that was something he just did over time. Like I don't think that was anything Loki did. But all that stuff is still under which is funny. Like, get rid of it, maybe. But
yeah, just cover it.
It's just cover it up. It's fine.
Just cover it up.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that ending. I did not see it. I was like, it brought a little bit of a tear to my eye.
This was like the Mass Effect 3 ending moment where like everything that's happened like culminates in this like epic, like just cinematic conclusion where you're just like.
This is something I would have loved to see in the theater, to be honest.
Oh my god! Like holy shit, Loki really becomes the like a god of time.
Yeah,
he learns how to manipulate time, and and he keeps going back. Like and I guess that's why he's time slipping because he can't control it.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to different versions of himself from season 1 and season 2, and then he goes back to the season 1 finale, and he has the conversation with Hugh Moraine. It's like, you're here.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, and he's like, kind of like teases him, hey, like you can, like you're like just
you haven't learned how to do that yet.
Yeah. You're like at your potential, and he's like, no, I know how to. Like he's manipulating time. He stops Sylvie, and
that was good.
Yeah, like they're kind of like he kind of like one ups him, and he's like,
he's like, that's pretty good. That's actually all right. Yeah,
nice. And and they have that conversation about like, did you really think killing me was like I didn't
have a backup of some kind.
Right. Jonathan Majors does a really great job
He's
as
awesome.
Timely and Kang. I really liked hearing him talk more as He Who Remains, and just kind of hearing him like, be like 2 steps ahead or 10 steps ahead almost, and like I don't know, just
some great dialogue.
Yeah, I just liked his like inflection. And it's going to be interesting to see. I know it's kind of hard to ignore the controversy. Yeah. I'm choosing to just be like, listen, I don't really care about Jonathan Majors as a person. If he's a shithead, he's a shithead. But like, listen, dude, I really hope this doesn't mess up everything for this, that they have to now course correct. Because actors don't want to work with him or whatever. I mean,
it's
a domestic abuse thing, right?
Yeah, there was an altercation between him and his girlfriend, apparently. I don't know the exact details. If something's proven in a court of law and it goes through, I understand why Marvel would do that.
Yeah.
But I'm to the point of like, I like not just, it's just let that stuff be worked out in the court. That's all I'm saying. That's where I'm at on everything.
Right.
For the most
there
part.
shouldn't be this preemptive
like
we're gonna
the court of public opinion.
Like the Johnny
Depp stuff for sure.
I was gonna say Johnny Depp. Good example, but like Gina Carano also that happened.
Oh, for sure.
A little bit of different situation. This quick knee jerk cancellation of people. It's just like
I do think that one's even stupider because there was no like chart like that was the Gina Carano thing. This one again. There's actual charges and the police are involved.
Yeah.
A little bit different. I will completely accept that, and I find that reasonable. And listen, everyone deserves their day in court to be heard, whatever it is. But yeah, I like him a lot. He's great in these. He's a fantastic actor.
I kind of agree with what you said. Like, hey, like, if the domestic abuse cases are, if the courts condemn him, they're condemning him. Marvel doesn't need to condemn him. Let the law condemn him.
Well, no, they would fire him after that for sure.
Right.
If he,
No,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like, they don't need
I see
to
what you're saying.
preemptively end his career. If he did that, then the
courts
system
with
will end it for him.
You would,
like,
yeah.
you know, like if it's gonna happen.
Of course, in a perfect world, I mean, that doesn't. Sadly, that doesn't always happen. If something actually does happen, but like, because that's all we can do.
Imagine if they start doing this, and I mean, there are a lot of variant situations of this. Of like, hey, like imagine, you know, he goes through the court and he's found not guilty. Well, now our actor's not going to work with him. Is Marvel going to act?
No, it's true.
Anyway?
And then it's like
it's so you know, in the politically correct world, this is a really
it's a very hot
situation.
topic. It's not hot topic. That's a wrong. It's a very
controversial.
Yes, and as it should be. Listen, abuse and any type of stuff should be not. We don't accept that, but like.
Right.
We gotta leave it to the court of law on this one. I'm sorry, especially after the Johnny Depp stuff. All like WB immediately came out and
unjustly really taking its roles away.
Well,
from
and
him
immediately again, not any type of like let's see what actually comes of these charges. So, but I digress from that.
Right. It was obvious to condemn Johnny Depp as a male for abusing a woman. It was easy to do that. You wouldn't do it the other way around. And we found out that Amber Heard was the
no,
shithead
yeah,
in
and
this
again,
situation.
I don't even think I necessarily even need to take it that far. It's just more like there's double standards on everything in every direction in life. I just think, especially after that, I can't say it any different. Just leave it to the courts, and if something truly does come out of it in the courts, do something. And if nothing, but then you also do have to deal with what you're saying. If actors don't want to work with them, your hands are tied there too. Because you're like, what? I don't know. I can't. And it sucks because, like, you know, the court of public opinion ends up being the only thing that really matters at the end of the day in certain respects. And that sucks. But to get away from that point, he's fantastic. He really is. He's awesome. He's magnetic.
I think he does almost a better job in this than he does in Quantumania.
He's a bit more, like, it's funny because I think he has a little bit, oh, for sure, in Quantumania.
And maybe that's He Humane's character written probably
a bit better.
Maybe, I wouldn't say better, but, like, he has more of a quirkiness. Like Kang in Quantumania is kind of like a villain.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. He Remains seems a little bit more.
And the great, like he believes he's doing this for the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
maybe he is.
Yeah. Well, and that's what he's trying to prove to Loki throughout this whole season. And Loki ends up taking the other way. He destroys the Loom, and that fucking whole scene. By the way, and I think they already brought this up. That whole thing was a clear X-Men parody or a clear X-Men reference. With the X door and it leads out to the base to the thing like it's
Cerebro.
so Cerebro. Yeah, I was trying to remember. But he walks out, he destroys the Loom. And all of the threads of
don't skip the fact that he spent centuries like learning.
I said that.
Learning all the engine.
I thought I said that earlier. No,
but that was crazy.
That is cool.
Like, and Mobius was like, "What the fuck
is going on?
Like,
yeah,
how do you know this?
Yeah,
and he's like, you go here, you're gonna say this, that. Like, I'm like,
he's like, he has the prototype, and
cool. He's really seeming like he's becoming more of a god than he already is.
He's lived for easily, and it's a great setup. And like I said, he destroys the Loom. The threads of time are scattered. It seems like everything's in chaos or dead even.
I wouldn't say it's the threads of time. It's the multiverse.
Well, exactly. The different different timelines.
So he's grabbing the timelines
and giving them life.
And
he's the Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
He's the tree of life.
Which I looked up. Yggdrasil does not have an origin and has nothing to, it just exists.
Yeah, exactly. Right, I thought the idea is in Norse mythology, like the earth is built from the remains of a giant or something, right? But the Yggdrasil, I guess, is like, it's just always is and will be.
Right, but there's no, I mean, I don't think Yggdrasil is a physical thing. I think
it's more
like
the idea
like it's like the cosmos idea, but it's not. It's like a realm.
It's what connects the universe. At least in God of War, that's how they use it. Which is interesting. But I'm trying to think of even just like all Norse mythology. Yeah,
it is like the all being, like, the cosmos. The Yggdrasil connects all these things together, and yada yada. But I looked up, I'm like, okay, like, so does it origin have anything to do with Loki? And it doesn't. So that's kind of like they kind of mess with it, which is fine.
And I mean,
really
there's it's so funny, like Norse mythology. I read what's the name's book on it. It was really good. He's done it. I can't remember. It'll come back to me. But a lot of stories are just lost and like half complete, and we really don't like. they're our best kind of ideas of what they were. So I do think there's a lot to kind of go through off that. But dude, I was like genuinely blown away. Like I was like, this is a great idea. Like wrapping it back around to his godhood. Sorry, I know I keep kind of shifting the table here, but bring it back around to his godhood and that Norse mythology was just awesome.
Yeah, I like when when he walks out on the gangplank and he's going out, and when he decides it has to be him who, they're talking about like destroying the loom. Well, we can't destroy the loom, but like, no, that's what like needs to happen. Because it's not obvious that like, like without the loom, we're fucked.
Yeah.
But
well, that's what he learns from.
And sending out Victor Timely is not helping either.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to go out himself and sort of sacrifice himself to ensure that the timeline progresses.
All the timelines, all the multiverse. Yeah.
Right. And he, which, sets up Secret Wars, that the multiverse is, I guess, all connected now, but it's stable in a way. We'll definitely talk about that more in the Marvels. Yeah, and he turns to Sylvie and Mobius as they're like trying to be like, yo, like what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, I was like, I forget, he says like, I'm doing this for you, for all of us, which he says to Odin in Loki, or in the first Thor, actually. Yeah. Which I didn't know that, or I, forgot, but I was like, and then he walks out and his clothes get, blasted apart, and I was like really hyped to see Loki in like a Loki outfit again.
Like a full Loki
really,
garb.
like, don't really see that.
Especially in this series, he's been just in his suit with this weird puff. I saw what you said about his puffy collar.
Yeah.
It's just a design choice.
I think it's just to make it pop.
Yeah, I think it's because I actually do like a lot of the clothing design on TVA. Like even like their collars are like inverted on their suits. It's weird. Like there's a cutout that like the collar's like depressed in, instead of like, how a traditional collar, it rolls over on itself, right? Like for a jacket, like it comes out and it flays. Like there's the collar part that you can flip up on like a suit jacket.
Yeah.
That part's like depressed into the suit. So it's like almost like it was cut out, and it's like the other part is high. It's hard to explain here, and I feel like I'm just going in a circle. The costume design is very good, and I find it very
the puffed collar. I was like,
what's
doing
going
this
on?
to just make it more prominent.
Yeah.
It looked, but
well, again, I think it's like a TVA thing.
But I kept like, I don't even think that, because like his other jackets don't have it.
No,
and other people's jackets don't have it. I was like, I just think they wanted to make it look more
just
prominent.
Different. Yeah.
But yeah, then we see that Loki outfit, and he takes his seat at the end of time, and forms Yggdrasil out of the broken strands of the
multiverse,
and he reconnects them, and Loki is now taking his seat of power as a god,
a true god. And I mean, again, like we've said, he's a god before, but like he is just like the gods in this are really powerful aliens. It seems like really more than anything, like especially with the Asgardians. But like this is true, like he is he who remains now.
It's so funny that Loki is a better character than Thor.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get a lot more time with Loki, so I think that's kind of, and I think would I have said that maybe at the end of Infinity War? No, I think I liked Thor more, but now I think he's definitely stronger, and especially after
I like Loki more now than I did in
at the end of Infinity,
like at the beginning of Infinity War,
right? Yeah.
But yeah, what a fucking note, man. I know people were making like, oh, well, now we know why the Eye of Agamotto is green. I'm like, it was always fucking green.
I think
great coincidence, but like,
I think they could have made that connection not at the beginning, but at the end they're like, oh, this works perfectly.
Right,
Loki's great. Like I don't think that's something they were like consciously setting up throughout.
Yeah.
But I think it was like a happy accident. They probably were finishing off and like, oh, this lines up. Loki's color's green. It all works.
I think we could see Loki in Secret Wars.
Oh, I think so too. 100%. I mean,
maybe not. Maybe
Tom Hiddleston's been pretty being like this journey has been great. Like talking about the end of it.
Secret Wars is so far away, so like I don't
know
who
why
knows?
They would. And I mean, dude, he was 29 when he first got this role. He's 43 now. That is wild.
Yeah,
that is so wild.
Damn,
Jesus. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, he's like a year younger than him.
And it's funny looking at like Thor, like.
At that, well, at least when he started.
Yeah, like he does look like such a baby face. Like, and it's funny because you just don't realize it. You grow up with these characters and you see them on screen all the time. But even like Will Smith, I think suffers from that. Not suffers from that, but like you see him age a lot more, so he ages a bit more gracefully. You don't even realize it. interesting stuff, man. I couldn't have had a more satisfying ending to Loki.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's a shame to say I'm looking forward to more Marvel stuff, but yeah, that's gonna change. It changed in a day.
No, absolutely.
Unfortunately,
and I mean,
unfortunately,
yeah.
the high right back down to the low.
Anywho, thank you all if you've been watching with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. We really appreciate your time. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network. We're on all your favorite social media pages as well, at Delco Nerds on basically everything. We got a Facebook page, Discord channel, all of which shall be linked down below. You can email us your comments, questions, or concerns to delconerds@gmail.com. We'd be happy to get back to you. All this information can be found on our website, delconerdnetwork.com. For Gooch, I've been Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy, and we will see you next time.